Why I am Aunt Susan, the karma farming Facebook fiend. I hate my brain damaged sister. My daughter was granted a Make-A-Wish and I'm sad. My daughter has a rare blood disorder called idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura, immune, which causes her immune system to destroy her platelets so she just bleeds, randomly. Her eye just hemorrhaged a few weeks ago, and an entire half was filled with blood. Today, 5-hour nosebleed. She can feel when they're coming, and she sits down with her bloody nose kit, tissues, a trash bag, a puke bucket for when she swallows too much blood and vomits, gauze, cold packs. My daughter is 4. I have been able to convince myself for almost 3 years that, yeah, she is sick, but not that sick. Last week, we spent 4 days at the hospital for severe anemia and no detachable platelets. She is that sick. I get it now. She is getting a wish, and she is getting worse because she is that sick. We have tried every medication available for treatment of this disease. Nothing helps. Nothing fixes it. My heart is broken. It's completely understandable to be heartbroken. I mean, it's an awful situation. I really hope your daughter is doing better since the time you posted this, and if not, I'm truly sorry.
I used to pay my middle school bully not to bully me. Then I found out he actually needed the money. He made my life a living hell. He would turn all the boys in class against me and bully me about my eyebrows. One time, he begged me to buy him pizza and said he promises not to bully me all week if I do. So I bought him a box of pizza and he fulfilled his promise. I loved the idea. I began to do it on a regular basis. I started asking him every Friday what he wants next week so that the bullying doesn't happen again. He asked for 2 bags of hot fries, a potato chip flavor here in the US, and another time he wanted some milk from the cafeteria, and once he asked for colored pencils for art class. My school had a uniform dress code. It was $25 per shirt and the pants were $15, if I remember correctly. He showed up the first day of 8th grade in regular clothes, a tee and jeans, so he got sent to the main office to wait for his parents. My aunt was there because she used to drop off my lunch and hand me money to buy food after school. She saw him upset and asked what's wrong, and he starts crying lightly. His parents wouldn't come because they couldn't afford the uniform and decided it would be best to avoid the situation. After my aunt hands me my lunch, she buys him a uniform hoodie, a couple of tees, and a long sleeve. He said he had pants at home and he was hesitant to accept, but eventually took them and thanked her. Now, 13 years later, he runs a nonprofit that has something to do with kids receiving books. I think it's sweet and I forgive him for being a bully because he didn't grow up to be an a-hole like most bullies. I mean, while you did get extorted, it's still nice to see that he didn't end up being a bad person. So many kids who bully others do so because they are so damaged and hurt in some way. It is absolutely heartbreaking as a teacher to see from all sides. Pee on his grave! You see, I could agree with you if they ended up being a bad person today, but apparently they're not, so now you're the bad person. Today, my next door pregnant neighbor knocked on my door. Around 7 p.m. today, I heard some knocking on my door. I opened it and it was my next door pregnant neighbor. She was, I think, in her 7th or 8th month. She was holding a small plate in her hand. In a very shy voice, she asked me if I can give her some of whatever I was cooking because she liked the smell. I think pregnant women sometimes have strong cravings and they cannot resist it. Anyway, she was shy and apologized a lot for her request since we don't know each other. I laughed and told her it was okay. I was cooking a traditional meal from my country and the recipe has olive oil, garlic, jalapenos, and some spices. I think the smell was nice. I gave her some of my dinner, then she left. I watched her walking home like a cute little penguin who's happy with her successful little hunting. I felt really happy too for some reason. It can be completely overwhelming when you get those pregnancy cravings. Nothing in that moment is as important as what is needed. It was very sweet of you to share. I feel like we don't hear about or see many things like this anymore. Just genuine human kindness. I fake an accent at my job. My heart is pounding writing this because I literally haven't told anyone this. So I worked at this one store and I worked on the sales floor. But before all that, I was just one person interviewing for a position at the store. Before I arrived for my interview, a friend of mine dared me to interview in a British accent. I said I'd do it only if they paid me, and to my surprise, they sent me like $10 through Venmo, which was more than enough for me. I went into the interview with the mindset that I wasn't going to get hired, and they inevitably hired me on the spot. Accent and
all. I was nervous because I had already talked to a whole bunch of higher-ups with the accent and decided to just go with it, thinking it was only going to be a summer job. I was so wrong. It's been like 7 months that I've been working there, and I still use the accent to this day. When people ask me where I'm from, I just tell them my hometown because I have several Brits from that town whom I grew up with. The accent hasn't really posed a problem until now because my BF is friends with one of my coworkers, so I'm gonna have to find the right time to come clean. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I mean, honestly, pretty damn impressive to go 7 months and not be discovered that it's a fake accent, because I just did like a minute of it and yeah, that was awful. It was terrible. Bet a coworker that you can fake an American accent for the rest of the year for $300. Honestly, not a terrible idea. It might get you out of it scot-free. Fake a head injury and go back to normal. This post is hilarious. Sorry, OP. Apparently, a kid in the States acquired a British accent solely from watching Peppa Pig. Hey, I mean, I've heard stranger things. I photoshopped every photo of my mom. My mom has really had a hard time the past few years. When she entered menopause, she gained weight, and no matter how much she works out or what diet she tries, she can't drop it. She is a wonderful person, beautiful inside and out, but I could tell it was really taking a toll on her. So I started, lightly, photoshopping pictures I take of her before I send them to anyone or print them. I just nip a little here and there, slight reshaping, and smoothing out of a few wrinkles. Nothing drastic, but enough. Since I have started this, she has started acting more confidently and has stopped making negative remarks about pictures she's in. She loves being in pictures with everyone again. It has really helped. I have not told anyone and never will. Well, you did just tell a lot of people anonymously on the internet, so hopefully your mom doesn't figure that out. I'm so conflicted on this. Intent is so endearing, but if she ever found out, just really keep this one to yourself. I really don't want to imagine the aftermath of the mom finding out about this, because that could be like world ending. I hate my brain damaged sister. I can't believe I'm actually typing this out right now. It's making it feel very real. And before you say it, I know. I am probably one of the worst human beings on this planet. Around a year ago, my older sister, 27, widowed mother of 2 boys, 8 and 5, decided to, against every single warning made, get drunk as shit and wreck her car into a rock embankment outside of our town. She was life-flighted to an ICU, spent weeks in a coma, and awoke in vegetative state. In the past year, she has slowly began to see some progress. Because of this accident, I was forced to quit my job, leave my friends, move across the country, and back in with my parents to help take care of her and raise my nephews. I love them dearly, but I have never wanted to have kids, especially not forced upon me like this. She had the mind of a child now, argues about silly things, can't cook for herself, cries over everything, can't read, memory loss, partially paralyzed on her right side, has aphasia, and a list of other problems with me as her caregiver. She tell me how happy she is to be alive after such a bad car accident. I want to scream that I wish she would have died. Her boys are a wreck after losing their dad recently and now having an effed up mom. My parents are spending all of their retirement savings for her treatments. I can see the years getting shaved off my dad and mom from the stress. I don't treat her any differently. I still tell her stories and laugh with her and do my best, but I hate the way I feel when I look at her. Did you even think about your boys when you got in your car? She is smiling and completely ignorant to the pain she has caused to my entire family. So I guess that's it. That's my confession. I have a deep, dark hatred and resentment for someone I love, and I will never let her know. Oh, yeah, I don't really know how I can respond to something like that. That's really heavy. Damn. That's exactly what I said. That's all I can say. Damn. My dad passed away this morning. He was riding his motorcycle to work early this morning. At around 2:30 a.m., he crashed his bike. We're thinking he had a heart attack, and that's what caused him to crash. In high school, about 13 years ago, I had to do a paper for English class. The topic was, write a paper on either a personal hero of yours or something that influenced you growing up, and then presented it to the class. I wrote my paper on my dad. I wrote about how much I loved him, how much he cared for me, his 15 years in the army, and how he was raising me to be a successful adult. I probably spent more time on that than any other paper I did. I was proud of it, and happy I got to read it aloud. Later that evening, I mentioned the paper to my dad, told him we could do it on either a hero or something that influenced us. He asked what I did mine on. I was embarrassed, so I told him I did it on a band. The last 13 years, I've regretted that. The last 13 years, I've wanted to tell him what I did the paper on. Just 2 days ago, it came across my mind again. Dad, I wrote that paper on you. You're my hero. Always were and always will be. I'm sorry I didn't tell you how much I loved you and how much you meant to me. Thank you for always being there. I love you, Dad. Oh my God, that is so heartbreaking. I am so sorry for your loss. He knows, man. He knows. I'm dying, but haven't told anyone. I was diagnosed with cancer a little over 2 weeks ago after a regular checkup. Turns out I have a tumor on my colon that has spread to other areas, liver and lungs so far, and will require extensive chemo and surgery for any chance to live longer than 8 months. I'm not having any treatment, and I haven't told my wife because she'll only pressure me to get the treatment, which results in months of pain and suffering for a relatively small chance. Instead, I'm making sure our last few months together are filled with only happy memories. I'm starting work later and finishing earlier each day to make her breakfast in bed and take her on dates in the evenings. My landlord I rent my workshop from has agreed to let me run my business rent-free for the next 6 months, which means significantly less financial stress and I can save a lot more, so she has something to carry her over afterwards. I hope she'll forgive me for taking this path. Dude, that's rough. You need to tell her.
Life isn't a movie. Your wife and immediate family deserve to know. While I think I understand the sentiment of wanting to keep it a secret and pass peacefully, you need to tell people, otherwise they're not going to be prepared, and that's just going to hurt them even more, I think. I've realized I detest my boyfriend. We've been together almost 3 years. We live together. I support us 100%. In the time we've been together, he's worked maybe 2 months. He's depressed and anxious, and he steals all the oxygen and joy out of every room. He never wants to go anywhere, but then complains that we never go anywhere. I got him an interview at my work, a moderately well-paid entry-level position. He refused to go, saying he wasn't ready, then spends time complaining about not having a job. You get the idea. Everything in our lives revolves around him and his moods. He cries, yells, or just sighs incessantly. There's no laughter or happiness in our home. I walk on eggshells all the time. I dread coming home from work. He grabbed me a few days ago and shook me so hard I'm bruised on my upper arms. The apartment is in my name, but he literally has nowhere to go because he has no friends, and he refuses to contact his family. So he'd be homeless, and I can't do that to him, or any human really. I fantasize about being alone all the time, like only cooking or shopping or doing anything just for myself. It would be incredible to be able to breathe again. His birthday was last week, and I saved up for a month to get him something related to his hobby. When I gave it to him, he said,
I just told you, I didn't want to do this anymore. What were you thinking?
I think at that point, any love I still felt for him just died. He doesn't cook, clean, care for his dog, or do anything but play video games. I'm trapped in a prison, and I just don't really care what happens to me anymore. I don't want to die, but I wouldn't be upset if I didn't wake up tomorrow, if that makes sense. I know what I should do, but I'm just a dumb bee. Thanks for reading. Typing it out helps. Honestly, it seems like you're very entitled to just kick him out because you own the apartment, you pay all the bills, you do everything. Get that mooch out. This won't get better. You have one life. Live yours. Dump him and move on.
Leave him like a mama bird would do, and he will find his way. Why, I am Aunt Susan, the karma farming Facebook fiend. My Reddit username is Cool Girl on the Train. I'm not really cool, but I commute daily on a train, so it's partially correct. I am an English woman, living in England. About 2 years ago, the fate that is called life landed an American guy in my local pub. My first impression was that he was different and a little odd. I was drawn to this oddness. It was cool and exciting, and it brings out my personality and inner quirks. About a year ago, we have become the best of friends. It's platonic and it's amazing. It's a friendship like no other. Well, of course, being a typically reserved English woman, I had never heard of Reddit. The guy, who shall be known as Mr. X, obviously is a hardcore Redditor and has an established account. He told me about Reddit, suggesting I set up an account and bet that I could never achieve the same amount of karma as him. I think it was more so the smug grin on his face as he was looking down at me that had the greatest impact and made me more so determined. What I don't think he realized is that I am incredibly competitive with the determination and heart of a lion. The prize, if I did, would be a trip to Canada. I had never been west, so for me this would be incredible. This was 3 weeks ago. Over the last 3 weeks, I have frantically posted all sorts of stuff in an eager attempt to work out what works. I have been called every name under the sun. Karma Karma Farmer, Aunt Susan, and to colloquially go back to Facebook. I have even been requested to stay on my side of the pond. This is my confession. This is why I have been behaving like Aunt Susan, the karma farming Facebook fiend. I apologize, and if you're interested, I will of course keep you posted. Confessions of the not so cool girl on the train. I don't know why, but I feel like this is a really cute setup. This could be a rom-com for sure. 40k karma in 3 weeks? Damn. Edit. Another 40k in 1 day? Keep being a karma LMAO. Yeah, I mean, clearly it's working out. Hopefully you're going to Canada. When I was 16, I took my family pet to the vet, found out he was terminally ill, and never told anyone. I'm the eldest of 4 kids in a family of 6, and growing up, we had a beautiful albino chinchilla named Dusty. Dusty was an awesome little pet to have as a kid. Very sweet, never bit anyone, loved to cuddle and run around digging tunnels in the bed sheets. He had this really big cage in our guest bedroom that was connected to my room, and every time someone would walk past his cage, he would run to the gate hoping to be taken out. If you opened the gate, he would just hop right into your hand. Anyway, great pet. So about 3 days after I got my driver's license as a 16-year-old, I noticed that one of Dusty's eyes were tearing a little bit, which I hadn't seen happen before. Feeling like a brand new adult with my new driver's license, I decided to take it upon myself to bring him to the vet and see what was up. So I put him into a brown paper grocery bag with his favorite blanket, made some air holes, stapled it shut, and strapped him into the passenger seat of my family's van. Fast forward maybe a half hour, and I'm sitting in the vet office holding Dusty, feeling like the most responsible adult ever. The vet is an exotic animals vet and takes a look at him, then asks to do an x-ray. So she sedates him a little, does the x-ray, hands him back to me, and leaves the room. Adult level 9000 as I sit petting him until he wakes back up. So vet comes back in and sits next to me on the little bench in the checkup room and starts petting him in my lap. She tells me how wonderful he is and how lucky I am to have such a great little pet, asking me my favorite memories of him. All this. So we are talking, and finally I ask her something like, okay, so how much do chinchilla eye drops cost, because I've got to get going, and she smiles gently, saying something like, I wish eye drops could fix this. She gives me a hug and starts to explain. Dusty was not bred responsibly and had some kind of internal deformity involving the roots of his teeth putting pressure on his eyes and brain. This would eventually cause an early death. I couldn't believe it. I remember starting to cry and putting Dusty back in his grocery bag with his blanket and asking if the vet had a stapler I could use to close it again. I paid cash to the receptionist from my babysitting money and got into my car crying all the way home. When I got home, I sat in the car for a while in the garage, trying to gather myself as Dusty chewed on his bag. Looking back, I'm not really sure why, but in the car, I decided not to tell my family the news. The vet said Dusty wasn't in pain despite his tearing eye, and we wouldn't have to put him down. She didn't know how long exactly he had left, but guessed maybe a year. I guess I figured I didn't want my family to be sad every time they played with him or passed by his cage knowing his time was limited. I wanted the rest of his little life to be normal. Eventually, I brought him back in the house and put him in his cage. I went later that day to Petco and bought rodent eye drops as a cover-up and proudly told my father that night how I brought Dusty to the vet to check his eye and lied saying the doctor gave me eye drops and told me eye irritation is common in chinchillas. Dusty lived 3 years after that, 2 years longer than the vet had expected. He passed away just shy of his 10th birthday. On the morning he passed, I told my dad what had actually happened at the vet. He told me I was so much more of an adult than I knew. Honestly, I think that was probably the best decision you could make. None of the family really worrying, and you got 2 extra years compared to what the vet told you. I read that as Chihuahua instead of chinchilla, and when you said you put Dusty in a brown paper bag, I was a bit concerned, lol. Admittedly, when I first read through it, I did read it as Chihuahua, and I was very nervous, but I'm glad I figured it out. IDK, why I'm crying in the club, RN. No, it's valid. You should cry. Maybe not in the club, but okay, just start crying. That was definitely a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, I'd say. But thankfully, the roller coaster is over. Thank you all once again for watching. My name is Brandon, and I will talk to you another day. Hopefully you won't be sad. Bye!